Hello everyone, just another short video regarding the Ukraine-Russia psychological operation, which I made a short comment on in a previous video, but just want to expand on that a little bit here, because I decided to do a posting. This, as you can see, is about 10 or 11 days ago, and so I was sent a few links which again, call the whole thing into question, which is hardly surprising the way that things have been done. Um, and I suppose what triggered me was I received a couple of messages. For example, here I've got this quote from a friend of our family who's sort of oblivious. I know her quite well, but not that well, and oblivious to what I've been doing for the last sort of well, since 2003. Really, never really talked about that at all with this person. And she says, "We are just very upset with what's happening in the Ukraine. We joined the Solidarity March in town last week and made donations, but wish we could do more." So, she falls into this group that just accepts what the BBC or whoever put out and don't really look, any deeper than that. And you can see, for example, that it's a psychological operation really quite easily. Another message that I received was from a reader who sent me this image, and this is from his back garden, and you can see there he's got neighbours on either side, or back and front, whichever it is, side and front of him, putting the flags up. So this has never happened before. We haven't seen this with Afghanistan or Kosovo or whatever back in the 90s. So and people are just again going along with the narrative, not really thinking, etc. No surprises there, I suppose. So this article is an attempt just to give some alternative links to look at. And for example, one that came up, which is worthy of comment, is this one about the Ukraine's borders. Now, Ukraine does not have any borders, so what exactly are they defending? Was this article which somebody sent me a couple of weeks ago, probably by now. So this came up on this website, which is the Europe Renaissance website. And initially, again, I sort of thought that this was fair enough because it was quoting Ban Ki-moon, who was the UN secretary, stating apparently on a date, and it gave a date of 2014, that he's alleged to have said that Ukraine hadn't registered its borders, according to him. And so I kind of accepted that at face value, that there was some questioning of the Ukraine borders by the UN Secretary General. But then it was pointed out to me by somebody called Claire, and she said, well, can you verify that statement? And so I went and tried to find this statement, and assuming that it's American date format, which I'm pretty sure it is, because if you go and look at well, it would be the 4th of July. There's no comments at all on that day by Ban Ki-moon. But here, if we look at the comments, I found the UN website with these statements from Ban Ki-moon. And none of them, if you go and look at these, mention the Ukraine at all. They're actually talking about Rwanda, because it's some anniversary for Rwanda mainly, and World Health Day, as you see there. So I couldn't find any statements about the Ukraine, so that calls that into question. However, having said that, there are a couple of other articles, such as this one on Op-Ed News, which talk about the Ukraine borders, and it's really not a clear picture which emerges. I haven't read all of this, but I read enough to say, well, some of it's a bit murky. So, these links will all be in the description if you want to follow these things up. And then there's this talk of announcing the plans to commit the, to quit the CIS, terminates parts of the Russia Friendship Treaty, etc. And this is from 2016. So there's talk of the Ukraine quitting the friendship with Russia, and there's an article about that. So that was in 2016. So maybe that was a build-up to the current psychological operation. I don't know, but that has some useful background bits and bobs. Yeah, so you can read around that a little bit. But then getting into the other commentators there's this chap who people think is fairly reliable. I'd not heard of this chap before, but he's been around for a few years apparently, called Gonzalo Lyra, who apparently is in Krakow in the Ukraine, and there's this video and another one which I've linked in the article where he talks about being in Krakow and talks about the relationship between Zelensky and Kolomoisky, for example. And of course, Zelensky, as many of you will know by now, his background is in being an actor. And as it says here, after portraying the president of the Ukraine for 3 years in his comedy series Servant of the People, he was elected president of the Ukraine of the country in president of the Ukraine, actually that country, same country obviously, in 2019. So, you know, what are the chances basically? So, you know, you can go and check that out for yourself. Then we've got the usual sort of thing with the Ukraine being the target of BBC psychological operations, and the BBC, you know, showed military parade footage as an invasion force. So, you know, this is what they did with the Libyan invasion, or whatever you want to call it, in 2011. I've got another link in the article about that, where they showed footage from India claiming it was from Tripoli, and it, you know, you could clearly see the Indian flag. So crazy stuff, you know. Oh, and then the treaty to give up nuclear weapons, that really goes over there. So, you know, there's all that hoo-ha with that. Yeah, and then there's another thread which somebody sent me on this Threadripper, which talks about somebody that allegedly went to Krakow and looked for evidence of there being conflict, and basically found almost nothing that's actually going on there, according to him. And there's been some criticism of that because apparently he's mixing in setage from a film. But certainly there's another video of Gonzalo Lira, and he's walking down the street in Krakow, and he says that he hears bombs being dropped, but he doesn't show you any sort of and it's not very loud either from where he is, so it's all a bit suspicious. And then yeah, there's a good video here talking about Zelensky and this oligarch who apparently is now living in Switzerland. I think he is Ukrainian originally, called Kolomoisky. And he's there's quite an interesting video, and that's of course from 2019, as you can see there. So that's worth a watch. That's only about well, you can see less than 5 minutes there. And then the other thing that's quite interesting to listen to, some people think that Putin is anti-globalist, you know, and he's fighting against the globalists. I have my doubts, but there's certainly an interesting speech that Putin gave, just with subtitles. It's all in Russian, it isn't in English. And that was on the 16th of March. That's worth listening to, but it's possibly just another pawn in the game that he's playing as, like Trump perhaps is. Still, I'm not totally sold either way on this. I'm still in two minds as to whether Trump and Putin really are you know, against the globalists. Certainly, if you watch Chris Hampton's film about Trump, you know, and the election. It does bring out some very significant things against Trump, really, that he is just playing a part to soak up the opposition and stuff, and it could very well be the same with Putin. And so yeah, so that's probably all I've got to say on the Ukraine thing. If you read the article here and then go through the links, they're in the article as well, most of them, and see what you think of that and make your own minds up, as it were. It's definitely a psychological operation. We're definitely not being told the truth. They're definitely using it as an excuse to drive up prices and maybe bring in a central bank digital currency. They're trying to accelerate that because of the sort of side effects of this psychological operation, you might say. So make of it what you will. But yes, moving on then, just to a final thing, I'll play a little bit of this clip.
In the past, many tyrants and governments wanted to do it, but nobody understood biology well enough. And nobody had enough computing power and data to hack millions of people. Neither the Gestapo nor the KGB could do it. But soon, at least some corporations and governments will be able to systematically hack all the people. We humans should get used to the idea that we are no longer mysterious souls.
So take that in, folks. It goes on for 6 minutes. You can watch the whole thing. I'm sure you can find this. And this is from 2020. We're no longer mysterious souls, he says, and you can hack humans. Well, you know, yeah, okay. He makes it very clear what they're doing. I know this has come up before, but this speech is particularly pointed and clear what these people are thinking. You know, it's just insane. And again, this guy, you know, I think I've seen him in one other video before, but I don't know anything about him. You can research him. Obviously, if you want to. I haven't really researched him. But as far as I'm concerned, he can go hack himself. So I'll leave you with that. And again, thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. And we'll keep moving forwards and see what happens.